Hey lovelies, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for stopping by again. And if this is your first time on this channel, you're absolutely welcome. Do well to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of my content. And in today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to draft this beautiful fit and flare 6 pieces dress. It has a square neckline and also cap sleeve. And without further ado, let's get started. And right here, these are the measurements that we're going to use for this tutorial. And the next thing to do is just to go ahead and start drafting. And here I have the pattern paper, okay? And right now, I'll go ahead and indicate the vertical measurement starting from the chest line, which is 8 inches, but I will be using 7 inches. And this is because this dress has a cap sleeve and it doesn't cover the whole of the armhole, all right? So we want the armhole to be fitted and not loose. And so I will use 7 inches. And next, I'll go ahead and indicate the bust point. And having done that, I'll go ahead and indicate the under bust line and then the waist line. Then also, I'll go ahead and also indicate the hip line and the full length. And right now, just go ahead and label each point, all right? At the beginning of the pattern here, here's the shoulder line, and right here this is our chest line. Next here is the bust point, here on the bust line, waist line, hip line, and the full length. And right now the next thing to do is to come to the shoulder line and indicate the shoulder measurement divided by 2, and in this case that is 7 inches, and I'll just indicate that here, and I'm going to use my pen to connect it to the chest line. And having done that, I'll come to the chest line here and I'm going to get the bust circumference divided by 4, which is 10 inches, and I'm just going to indicate that. And having done that, I'll come to the straight line here and I'll go upward by 3 inches, and I'm going to use that to create the armhole like so. And right now, the next thing to do is to go ahead and get our nipple to nipple measurement, which is 8 inches in this case. And we're going to divide it by 2 because the pattern is on fold. And that is going to give us 4 inches. I'm going to add extra half an inch to that to make it 4.5. And I added extra half inch to the nipple to nipple measurement because I'm not going to be adding any extra allowance while joining the pieces together, all right? And this is going to help tighten the square neckline to avoid gaping, while also making sure that the nipple to nipple falls at the right place and no wider than what it's supposed to be. And this is suitable especially if you're working with a stretchy material. So I marked the nipple to nipple line from the shoulder to the gown length, and I'm going to connect it together on a straight line like so. And right now, I'll come to the under bust line here, and I'm going to be taking the dart of 0.75. You can use 1 inch, but remember, we're not going to be padding this dress, okay? So we don't need too much dart over there, okay? And having done that, I'll come to the shoulder line here, and we are going to be taking 1 inch on both sides. And having done that, we're going to go ahead and connect all the darts to the bust point. And having done that, I'll come to the hip line here and I'll go down by 4 inches. Then I'm going to connect the rest of the dart legs to this point like so. And having done that, I'll come to the chest line and we're going to get the bust circumference divided by 4. We're going to come to the waistline, get the waist circumference divided by 4. And I'm going to return the dart that we have here on the bust, okay? Having done that, I'll come to the hip line and get the hip circumference divided by 4. And then I'll go ahead and connect the points together. And from the hip line, I'll connect to the gown length on a straight line. And right here, I labeled the center front A and the side front, I labeled it B. And like I said earlier, while joining both A and B together, we are not going to be adding any extra allowance to that, okay? And for the neckline, we are also going to be drafting the neckline after joining both together. I feel that that's the easiest way to go about the neckline. And right now, the next thing to do is to go ahead and replace the dart intake on the shoulder line, okay? And right now, I will replace the 2 inches back like so, okay? And we are going to connect it to the chest line. I made a mistake here and connected to this line here. So I'm supposed to go ahead and measure 2 inches here on the chest line. Then we are going to connect it on a straight line like so. and I'll just go ahead and cancel this arrow right here. Okay, and right now, before I create the new armhole, I'm just going to go ahead and add the seam allowance to this pattern. Okay, so right here on the chest line, I'll add 2 inches. On the waistline, I'll also add 2 inches, and right here on the hip line, I'll add 2 inches. And whatever I have on the hip line here, I will transfer it to the gown length and add extra 6 inches to that. And altogether, what I have here is around 18.5 inches. Okay, remember that we're making a fit and flare dress. It has to be flare on the down part. Okay, that's why I added 6 inches extra to that. You can add more than 6 inches, depends on how big you want, but for the style inspiration, 6 inches is okay. So right now, I'll connect from the bust line to the waistline. And right here from the waistline, I'll connect directly to the gown length. And having done that, I'll come up here and I'll go upward by about 3 inches. And on that point, I'll come inward by half an inch. Okay, and from there, we are going to go ahead and create our armhole curve like so. And having done that, I'll go ahead and cancel this old armhole. And the next thing to do is to go ahead and cut out the pattern. By the way, if you are enjoying this tutorial, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more sewing tips. Thank you. And right now, this is what the pattern looks like after cutting out. And the next thing we need to do is to go ahead and cut the back piece. And right here, this is the back piece, and as you can see, I didn't add any zipper allowance to the back piece. It's going to be added while cutting the fabrics, okay? And here we have the shoulder line, the chest line, waistline, hip line, and the full length. And to get started, I'm going to come to the waistline here, and I'm going to go inward by half an inch. And from that point, I'm going to connect it upward and also connect it downward like so. And this is just to imitate a human back and also get rid of bulginess at the back. And so having done that, I'll come to the shoulder line here and indicate the shoulder measurement, which is 7 inches in this case. And I'm going to do the same on the chest line right here. And I'll go ahead and connect the point together. And having done that, I'll come to the waistline here and I'm going to go ahead and impute our nipple to nipple measurement. Remember that it's 4 inches and we're going to be adding half an inch to that. And that is going to be 4.5 inches. So I'm just going to go ahead and indicate that here. And having done that, I will measure from the original center back and to the nipple to nipple measurement, and whatever we have there, I will impute here on the shoulder line and also impute it on the gown length. And having done that, we're going to go ahead and connect together on a straight line. And having done that, I'll come to the waistline here and I'm going to be taking the dart of half an inch on both sides. And then I'll come to the hip line and go downward by 4 inches like so. Having done that, I'll come to the chest line and extend the chest line like so. And right here on the chest line, I'll just come downward by 1 inch. And next, I'll just go ahead and connect from the 1 inch point to the waistline like so. And from the waistline, we're going to be connecting it to this point here. And having done that, I'll come to the shoulder line and take half an inch on both sides like so. And I'm going to connect it to this point here. I'm using half an inch on both sides here instead of the 1 inch we used for the front because this is the back and we don't need bust curve on the back. And up next, I'm going to replace the dart intake on the shoulder back like so, okay? I'm going to measure the same 1 inch here and I'm going to connect together on a straight line. Having done that, I'm going to come upward by 3 inches and indicate. And having done that, on this chest line, I'm going to get the bust circumference divided by 4. Then I'm going to create the armhole curve. And up next, I'm going to come to the waistline here and get the waist circumference divided by 4. I'm going to replace the dart intake like so. And on the hip line here, I'm going to get the hip circumference divided by 4. Okay. And next, I'm just going to go ahead and link the points together like so. And having done that, I'll just connect from the hip line like so on a straight line to the gown length. And right now the next thing to do is to go ahead and add allowance to the pattern. So here on the chest line I'll add 2 inches, on the waistline I'll add 2 inches, and also the same on the hip line. And next I'm going to connect from the waistline to the chest line like so. And up next, I'll come to the hip line and measure what we have here on the hip line, and I'm going to duplicate it on the gown length, but I'm going to add extra 6 inches to that, and altogether I'll have around 18.5. all right, and I'll just go ahead and indicate that here. Then I'll connect from the waistline to the gown length. And having done that, I'll just come to the back here and I'm going to cut off this excess. And before I cut out the pattern, I'm going to come to the waistline here and I'm going to go upward by 1/2 inch and downward by 1/2 inch, and I'm going to connect it to the side like so. All right. And having done that, I'll just go ahead and use the marker to highlight it. And so right here, I'll just fold it inward like so, okay? And I'll use the tape to hold it in place. And having done that, I'll just go ahead and cut out the pattern. And right here, our back piece is ready. And right here we have both the front piece and the back piece, okay? And in order to join them together, I'll just demonstrate on how to go about it. So we're going to be placing the center front and the center back together like so, and I'm going to use pins to hold them together. And right here, after joining the center front and the side front together, the next thing to do is to go ahead and cut the neckline. All right, and for the width of the neckline, I'll be using 3.5 inches. You can go ahead and use 4 inches, okay? And for the depth of the neckline, I'll use 7 inches and I'll just square it up. And after squaring it up, we're just going to create a little curve around this area like so. And having done that, we're going to come to this part here and come down by 1 inch in order to get our shoulder slant, okay? Then we are going to connect it to the neckline and cut the excess out. And right here we have the neckline and also the shoulder slant. Remember that the front piece is supposed to be cut on fold. And right here, this is the back piece, and I'm just indicating with an arrow to show the part that is going to carry the zipper allowance, okay? And the next thing to do is also to connect both the center back and the side back together. And we're also going to take our neckline using the width of 3.5. You can use 4 inches, and also the depth of 2 inches. You can use 1.5 inches since the neckline is higher at the back, okay? Then I'll just square it up and create a curve like so. And having done that, I'll just go ahead and cut out the neckline. And also for the shoulder slant, I'll just come down here by 1 inch and connect it to the neckline and also cut it out. And right there, that is how to go about it. And for the sleeve, it's very simple. It has a cup sleeve, and what you need to do is just to get a piece of fabric and you're going to fold it into 2, then into 4 like so. And next you are going to measure around from 3 inches to 5 inches. Here I'll just use 4 inches, and I'm going to measure it all around as if you're measuring for a flare. All right, then I'm going to connect the point together like so and cut out the excess. All right, and voila, your sleeve is ready. All right, and the next thing you need to do is just to go ahead and join this part. All right, this is the part that goes to the armhole. You're going to go ahead and join it to the armhole. And as you can see, the sleeve is really easy to make. Thank you so much for watching to the end, and I'll see you in my next tutorial.